Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
Okay, and we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Seller Roundtable extra session. I'm here with my friend, Shelley Simone. She's amazing, and she runs a group called Scale for E-Tail out of the UK, and they're just a wonderful group of sellers. They help each other a lot, and I've been in their group before, and they're just really great people. And so Shelley's here today to tell us a little bit more about the Brexit stuff, because I think there's a lot of stuff going on with Brexit and we aren't really sure like how that's going to be navigated. So Shelley's going to help us out with that. But before we get into that, Shelley, just tell us a little bit more about you and your story in e-commerce.
Cool. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. It's a real pleasure. I actually don't do much speaking myself, even though I have so many speakers who do come to the Scale for Retail community and enlighten us and teach us. So it's quite odd to be in the speaker chair, but also very nice because I do love doing it and I do love helping people. And actually, that's where the Scale for Retail group, came out of that desire to form a community, to be part of something bigger than just my desk, my computer, and my Amazon Seller Central. I know
the feeling. I know the feeling. It's like I'm all alone.
I know.
And seller support is not very friendly.
No, don't go there for friendship. But you do when you first start. I mean, I'll go back and talk about my story in a minute. But when you first start doing this kind of job and working from home, I bet all those people who are now working from home really understand the psychological kind of tunnel that you end up going into. And it does. It feels quite insular and you become less extrovert. And you do sometimes feel like there is not many other people out there like you. and you do wonder what it might be like to do something normal, like go to an office again or work with other people. So I think it's important that if you're doing this kind of entrepreneur lifestyle, that you surround yourself with people who won't stress you out and are friendly, and are going to help you. And actually, it's a constant learning. I often find actually that I still don't know everything that there is to know, even though I've been doing this since 2015. And I always say every year on Amazon feels like a dog year. It feels like I've lived 7 years of my life.
Oh, that's so true.
It is, isn't it?
I've been doing it since 2007 and I still I always have people in my groups that I'll say, yeah, I think it's this way. And somebody else will say, no, Amy, actually it's like this. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you for sharing because things change so fast. You can't possibly know everything. You can't possibly have every answer. And, and Amazon makes the rules, right? So, so all we can do is just go along for the ride and try to keep each other informed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter whether it's Amazon or whether it's Facebook or indeed whether it might be Google that's thrown a little spanner in your works on that particular day. If we don't club together, I believe anyway, there's absolutely no way that we're going to succeed as, single or maybe small entrepreneurial businesses. And when you first start out, it does feel very singular. Anyway, so my story, I started out in life having a very international lifestyle, as we talked about privately earlier. So I'm a Brit by birth, but by the time I was 18, I'd lived on 3 continents. I was brought up in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Israel, oddly. Not my choice, by the way. I just obviously had parents who took me around the world. And and so I guess that makes me quite internationally orientated. And for the rest of my working life, I've been quite the traveler. I never really enjoyed working in one country. I always had to work in about between 5 and 7. So I enjoyed working for big companies, mainly for quite a bit of my early life. And I used to travel and have responsibilities for multiple countries. And I speak French, and obviously I speak Hebrew, and understand German. So it's all very kind of par for the course for me, actually, to feel like I'm more of a European. But obviously Brexit means that we're breaking up and having a divorce. And so we've got to figure out what to do, right?
And for those people that are kind of unfamiliar with kind of the background behind this, and I would do it. I've lived in Europe, and I would do a terrible job of explaining Brexit. So maybe since you have a little more background there and you currently live in the UK, maybe you can explain a little bit, what does that mean? What is Brexit?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So back in 2016, the UK government, one of the political parties in particular in the UK, was going through a kind of navel gazing exercise and really asking itself whether we should be in Europe. And they decided to put that question to the population in a referendum. And they basically said, do you want to stay in Europe, yes or no? And a whole ton of people, and there was a big campaign for it, obviously, said, no, we don't like it. I don't know how many of them were business people, if I'm totally honest, because if they were, they might have realized quite what's about to happen to us in January. But effectively, what that meant was that we were going to no longer be part of a European Union. I mean, it would almost be like one of the American states having a referendum and saying, no, thank you, we don't want to be part of the United States.
Yeah. So for example, when I lived in Germany, in Europe, you can drive, like I could drive 45 minutes and be in Paris, right?
Right.
And I could use the euro wherever I went. So I could take that same money and I could drive another 30 minutes in another direction and be in Trier, and another 30 minutes and be in Belgium. And you're going to all these different small countries, and you can use the same currency. So when you have to stop and get gas at the gas station, or when you have to stop and pick up food, you're not having to change your money constantly, right? It would be like you said, the equivalent of me coming here to Texas from Oklahoma and suddenly go into the store and they don't accept my money. And like, wait, where am I? Am I in the United States? And in Europe, everybody was using the euro. And now when we go to the UK, we're not going to be able to use the euro anime.
Well, you've never been able to use the euro in the UK. So we've always been a little bit exceptionalist because we're an island. So it's a bit more like Hawaii versus the mainland, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense for Hawaii to have their own currency, honestly. Everything's so expensive over there anyway.
So we've never actually integrated completely with Europe. We've always been slightly schizophrenic as a nation, probably, with the idea of being, lumped together with that great big continent, because we've always had a sea between us and them. And so we've never taken on the euro, and actually we've never allowed people to enter into the UK without a passport either. That was part of the Schengen agreement. So we opted out of a few things, and now we're opting out of everything. And what that means, everything. I mean, absolutely everything. And as you can imagine, there's quite a lot of turmoil and worry and concern, and a whole bunch of stuff that hasn't even begun to be figured out, let alone by governments.
Especially for business owners that
Right.
currently can operate throughout Europe. I know a lot of people signed up for Amazon. They would do it through the UK. They would establish
Right.
their business in the UK, and then they were able to just kind of go everywhere else from there.
Right.
Is that going to change now? All those
Yes.
people that have businesses in the UK, are they still going to be able to sell in the rest of Europe, or are they going to have to establish new businesses? That sounds really...
Probably is the answer. So the honest answer is we've broken up, but we haven't signed a trade deal with Europe, which was meant to be the way that we were going to smooth over a lot of the friction and the rough edges that would occur from a breakup. And because that trade deal hasn't been signed, that means that we are going for a very hard kind of what they call a hard Brexit, which means it's a hard exit from the rest of Europe. Now, there is a tiny, minute possibility that between now and the 1st of January, a trade deal will come out and will hopefully help everyone. But here we are in the middle of October, and the signs are that's not going to happen. And it's very hard for me not to get into the politics of this. I'm trying not to.
Right.
I'm trying to sound as Switzerland and as neutral as I possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, we won't ask you how you personally feel about all of this.
Right, thank you. Yeah, because I wouldn't want that to go down in history. But but it's obviously going to cause us quite a few problems. So if you're a British business, or even if you're an American business, and many American businesses use the UK as the launch pad, why not? It's easy. We speak the same language, more or less. We have a lot in common.
Yep. And that was the original recommendation for anyone going to Europe, was to establish in the UK, because you could set up your VAT and all of that first, and then everything. It was just like, okay, and then from there is the launchpad. From there, you list in Germany and Italy and Spain and everywhere else. So what? Yeah.
So there are two
Walk
ways.
us through this.
Yeah. So there are two ways that you currently, up until December, are able to sell in Europe. If you go through a UK company, you can either store all your inventory in the UK and use what's called the European Fulfillment Network, EFN for short. And that means that Amazon takes your inventory out of the UK and ships it to the customer when there's an order. And that's a bit more expensive. Amazon charge you a little bit more because, as you can imagine, they have to ship every single item to the end destination, to the customer. And so that costs a little bit more.
And the UK is not as centralized as some of the other areas in Europe, right? Correct. If you were in like Germany, you would be kind of central to, okay, interesting.
Yeah, you'd be bang in the middle of where Europe is. And don't forget, Europe isn't just the main countries where you list, which these days also includes Sweden and the Netherlands. But initially it was just the 5, right? It was Germany, Spain, Italy, UK, and France. But through the European network, you also end up shipping to 27 other countries. So when you're shipping to German customers, actually you're covering what they call DACH, which is Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, and Luxembourg. I think that's what DACH stands for. So, you know, and when you're in France, you're probably doing a couple of other countries, and the same for Spain and the same for Italy. And those countries might even feed into places like Cyprus or Malta, or, you know, countries that are much more remote and small, but you're able to reach them through those other countries. So by using EFN and basing all your inventory in the UK, that's good. It helps you to develop your business in all those other countries, and it's a good place to start. And for some people like myself, I've never gone beyond EFN, partly because my sales in like Italy or Spain to be precise, they're a lot smaller than they are in Germany. And so I don't really want to be having my inventory in Spain. There's just not much point for the small amount of sales that I do on a monthly basis. So that's why people use EFN. The other mechanism that you can use is pan-EU FBA, where essentially you allow Amazon to ship it to any warehouse that they want in the Amazon network. And you do that when you're ready, to have those levels of inventory in Spain or in Italy or in some of the smaller countries, because your sales are significant and substantial. And with that, whilst it's cheaper and you can access Prime a lot more easily, but with that comes the need to register for VAT in 7 countries, which is like a bit of a drag. So
the difference between EFN, which is the European Fulfillment Network, is you register only in the UK. Correct. And you put your inventory there, and then you're able to then list, and they'll fulfill it everywhere else.
Yeah.
But if you're doing pan EU FBA, you can still ship anywhere in the network, but you have to register individually for VAT in each country.
Correct, because you're essentially storing your inventory in each. Well, Amazon does it for you, and Amazon will not only store, by the way, in those 5 countries, but they also store inventory in Poland and the Czech Republic.
So the difference is your inventory is also scattered with pan-EU, where with EFN, your inventory is in one place and Amazon's sending it out. So it's kind of like NARF in the US, where we can keep our inventory in US fulfillment centers. And if we sell in Canada or Mexico, Amazon will ship it for us. Or we can send our inventory to Canada fulfillment centers, and they will fulfill it from there. The costs are a little bit different, right? Because the fulfillment charges are different depending on shipping costs and everything else. Right. But that's the difference. So you have both of these options, pan-EU or EFN. Pan-EU means like your inventory is more centrally located to that country. And EFN means I'm leaving my inventory in the UK and it's getting fulfilled everywhere else.
Correct. So none of that is going to be really possible using a UK business going forward. And let me break that down a little, because that sounds shocking,
that sounds really scary. No. Oh my goodness. Okay. So none of it's going to be possible going forward potentially.
Well, so well, number one, Amazon have already notified everyone that they are shutting down the pan-EU program from the UK on, the whatever of December. It will no longer be running. So you can still be a pan-EU FBA seller, but you're going to have to find a way to ship your inventory to France, Germany, Italy, or Spain, and do your pan-EU from there.
Okay, because you're going to have to remove, if you have inventory in the UK as your centralized. So if I'm shipping from my supplier in China to UK right now, since the UK pan-EU is being shut down, I can't then forward that inventory to the other fulfillment centers. So now I'm going to have to switch to a different hub. I'm going to have to go to Germany or something like that, so that I can then move my stuff to the different fulfillment centers.
Correct. I mean, you still will ship to the UK for your UK customers, but that's it. That's all you will reach.
You can't store the rest of your inventory there to fulfill throughout Europe, which is a pretty big change.
Yeah.
And did Amazon say they were setting up an alternate location? Are they moving to Germany, or what? Switzerland would be the obvious choice.
If you're doing EFN, like I am, you can choose where to, or indeed pan-EU FBA, you can choose where to send your inventory to. So in my case, I will probably send it to Germany because that's my biggest European country outside of the UK. And it makes sense for me to store most of it there because it only ever goes to Italy or France or Germany, very little in Spain, nothing in the Netherlands right now really to speak of. And Sweden hasn't got off the ground either. So I'm sticking with Germany. So you can choose to do that. You can say, hey, my biggest country is X. I'm going to send it to X instead. And you will be able to do, I think, EFN from there for sure. And I think you will be able to do pan-EU FBA. But that's the bit where Amazon haven't quite communicated how they're going to manage that part of the transition. And as you can imagine, even for Amazon, let alone for us, this is very difficult because of the political wranglings that have been going on between the two sides. It's a bad divorce, basically.
So there's a good chance that a lot of people at the first of the year may still have inventory in.
Okay, let me talk about solutions.
Okay.
Because I think there are some, and this is the moment to pluck up the courage to go and deal with this issue and address it. Now, you could try and find a way to do it with your UK company, and many of my UK compatriots on Amazon who are doing pan-EU FBA find my solution really difficult, and so they're desperately trying to find a way around it whilst maintaining a UK company with all their European VAT rate. Look, you can imagine if they've registered for VAT in 7 countries and they're doing the pan-EU out of the UK, it's a real problem for them.
So expensive too.
It is. It's expensive, and
how the record keeping sounds like a nightmare. I mean,
it is.
You're going to have to do taxes and all that. And
you've got to be doing, at least, I guess, 10,000 units a year per country. And I won't even get on to how the IPI score hits you in every single one of those territories. If, God forbid, Amazon have decided to dump too much inventory in one country, or, you have a listing disaster in France and you've got all your inventory there, and then your IPI score goes down, then you've got problems with even being able to sell in that particular. Anyway, so it's a bit of a nightmare, and it requires quite a bit of, size and dimension to your company to be able to operate on the pan-EU program. But And so there are lots of people trying to figure out what to do. And I decided not to go down that path. It's partly because my business, isn't terribly large. I have 2 high 6-figure businesses and a third one with scale for retail. But honestly, I don't have massive teams. I don't have lots of resources. And I decided to be a bit light water and just find the quickest way through this. And I kind of did. So my solution is that I have found a way to set up a European company really quickly and expeditiously, which means that I can continue to operate on the continent of Europe as if I was a European, even though I'm clearly a Brit, and just kind of decouple the UK stuff from the European stuff, and everything will be going through my European company. And the way to do that is there's a wonderful country called Estonia, which have set up a program for entrepreneurs so that you can become a digital citizen, as they call it. And that means that once you become a digital citizen, which by the way takes 4 weeks, you can then set up your European company in Estonia, and that then allows you to set up your VAT in any country that you like. You could go for Estonia, but if you're never going to do anything with Estonia, the best thing to do is to pick the country where you want to send your inventory to. So once again, in my case, I'm going to pick Germany. So now I have 2 VAT registrations, one in the UK and one in Germany for the European stuff. There is also a little wheeze that I've discovered about how you ship your inventory. So now, from now on, like my next order from China, which is coming in on the 4th of January, a portion of that is going to Germany and a portion will be going to the UK under 2 separate companies. And hopefully my supplier won't be too schizophrenic with that solution, because I've explained it to him. So the bit that's going into Germany will ship from, my Estonian, they're limited. So it'll be Estonia OU kind of company, which will be VAT registered in Germany, and which I will use Germany as my hub from which to do my European fulfillment network sales. And in some ways, and actually I will probably customs clear my inventory through a third country, because that allows you to not have to pay import VAT in Germany if you clear it through France or Belgium or Netherlands or any other country in Europe.
So can we repeat that? That seemed like a key thing.
That's a little trick I've just discovered.
So what is the trick there where you're able to?
So you ship it to the country you want to put it in, but you do customs clearance through another European country. And that way you avoid the import VAT. I mean, at the end of the day, VAT, which is like sales tax, when you import into a country, you have to pay the VAT usually, right, and then it comes off your sales. So it's neither here nor there. You will get the money back eventually. But from a cash flow perspective, if you can avoid paying it up front, then it's almost better, isn't it? So that's the extra little tip that I've just discovered, because as you can imagine, I'm having to speak to all sorts of German and English freight forwarders and warehouses to try and find the ultimate solution, as well as company formation experts and accountants in Estonia. But let me go back to Estonia for a moment. So what's really cool is everything you do with Estonia is online. And I'm going to show this to you, actually. And once you've become a citizen, they give you this little package here. Okay. And in there, sorry, I'm just going to have to.
A digital citizen, once you become a digital citizen.
A digital citizen. You get your digital ID card here.
Oh, wow. It looks like a credit card.
Yes, I know. And everything you do with the card, you simply slip it into this, plug it into your computer, and that gives you a digital signature. It's really neat. It's ever so good.
Okay.
And it took, like I said, about 3-4 weeks to apply online and get my digital signature. But the company that I'm dealing with in forming, getting all the bureaucracy done, that literally took a week or 10 days. Not very long at all. So I have now a company, an Estonian company. I need to get a bank account for it next. And then
in short, you're still keeping your UK company.
Yeah.
And anything that you do in the UK will still fall under that company.
Right.
But everything else that you do in the rest of Europe is going to fall under your new entity. And Correct. You're just going to change your fulfillment hub to Correct. Germany instead for EFN instead of out of the UK. So that's your solution that you've come up with that is working well for you.
Thanks for tuning in to part 1 of this episode. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at sellerroundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, sellerseo.com and amazingathome.com.